So in this video, we will create a Pomodoro timer terminal user interface (TUI), and we'll use Bubble Tea framework inside Golang. So let's start. Here we have an empty directory. I'll initialize it with go mod init and github.com/-11/pomo. You can find the code in this repository itself, and then we'll create a main.go file, package main. So first I'll just do the standard boilerplate code for any bubble tea application. Okay, so just bear with me. So here you can see there are two issues. So the one is that it cannot import bubble tea framework, and the other is there is no new model function defined. So let's fix the first one by doing go mod tidy, and it will download the bubble tea module, and then we'll create a model.go. So here we can initialize our model. Okay, so we have fixed both the errors. Now let's fix other errors in here. So it says it needs to implement a few functions to satisfy this t.model interface. Like right now it says for the init method. So let's implement the init method in the model interface. And then there are, so basically t.model interface needs to implement three functions, three methods. So I'll implement all those. Now the third method is view, and it simply returns a string. So this resolves all our compiler errors. Okay, here is something else. Dot error. Okay, okay. So all our compiler errors and language server warnings are gone. So, but there is one issue that once this program starts, there is no way to quit it. Okay, so first I'll write a text message, press Q to quit, and then I'll implement the logic. This again is a boilerplate logic which is used in every um, bubble tea program. So just bear with me for this as well. So if user presses a Q or it presses Control plus C, it should terminate the program. Okay, so this is it. I mean, now this function is in a state where we can try to run it. Okay, so I'll just do go run dot. Okay, I'm pressing all the keys, nothing happens. As soon as I press Q, it terminates, and if I press Ctrl C, it terminates as well. So this is working as expected. Just one caveat, we should add a new line character here so the messages are shown even when we quit it. Okay, now let's add a static um, timer. Okay, so I'll add so for that we need to add a remaining time field inside this model. Remaining is time dot duration. Okay, and we'll initialize this time dot duration with this remaining field with let's say 25 minutes. Okay, because that's the standard for any Pomodoro timer. We'll make it configurable in a while, don't worry. So, and here I'll create a method. Format remaining, and it just returns a string. So first I'll create a s variable which will give me m dot remaining dot round with time dot second and dot seconds, and I'll typecast it into integer. Okay, so this now variable has the number of seconds remaining, and what I'll do is I'll return fmt dot s printf, and there will be percentage 02d colon percentage 02d, and I'll add seconds divided by 60. This will give us minutes, and the modulo 60, this will give us seconds. Okay, and now before adding the press Q button, I'll just add the time remaining. Okay, let's check if there are any compiler warnings. Nothing of such sort. So we'll just run the code. Okay, so this format looks cool. Okay, now let's make it dynamic. Okay, so for that we'll create a pause and play using spacebar. Before that, let's add another parameter as running, which will indicate if the timer is running or not, and by default we'll initialize it with false, although we don't need to do this, but to be explicit I'm doing this. Okay, and we have to create a tick function. Okay, let me first add the case here. When we press space bar, first thing I'll do is I'll toggle the running. Okay, if it is running it will turn into not running, and if it is not running it will turn to running. And then if it is running, I mean after spacebar I wanted to run, then I'll return m dot tick. Okay, and we also need to create a new message type which will indicate that we want the counter to tick. Okay, so I'll create a message type. Let's say I'll call type message tick as a struct. Okay, a simple struct, and in the tick function m dot tick, let's create the m dot tick function as well. What it will return is a t dot model and a t dot command. Okay, so here what it will do is, first thing when we tick, we'll reduce the timer, right? I'll say m dot remaining equals to minus equals to time dot second. Okay, so it will reduce the remaining with 1 second, and then it will return model as well as a t dot tick function. So the t dot tick function takes in a duration and a function. Okay, so it simply returns message tick. Okay, now since this is being returned, so as long as this message tick is returned, it should be captured here. Okay, after key message I want a message tick, and if I'm dot running, I want to return again m dot tick. Okay, because I wanted to tick again. I mean this function here is executed after this second once. Okay, so when this is called again, it will call again and again, you see, and this is how it works. I think it should work right now. Let's try to run it and see if there are any bugs of any sort. First I press the space bar, now it's running, then I press space bar again and it stops, and then I press space bar again, it starts. Okay, so it seems to work fine. Okay, now this is just one timer, but we need a consecutive timer for Pomodoro to be successful. Okay, so we need some phases of sort. Okay, so I'll create another file called phase.go, and I'll create a type phase which will be int, and I'll create some constants. Phase work equals iota, and then phase, so there will be short break and phase long. Okay, this is these are the constants we defined, and we'll add a string function for this phase variable, phase type. If it is phase long, I'll return long break. Case if it is phase short, I'll return short break, and default I'll return focus work. Okay, so we have to implement these things, and we'll create an function advance which will increment it. Okay, so let me, I in the model I need to add a face variable as well. Okay, and we also need a duration variable which will be a duration type which will contain all the durations for all phases. And when initializing the new model, I need to add the duration and initialize with the same. The initial phase should be work, and duration should be d, and the remaining time should be initialized with due dot work duration. Okay, and we'll create another function which will give the r- phase duration, and it will switch over m dot phase. So now let's start again. Now let's continue with the advanced function. So it should first update the remaining to m dot phase duration. Not first, it should first see if it's currently inside. Let's say if it is in work phase, right? So next it should go to some break phase. So for that it needs to look for the session m m dot session. So we should also need to add a session integer which will keep track of how many sessions have been done, right? And it just should default to session with 1, right? And then here if m dot session is some fourth-ish second, like after every 4 sessions there should be a long break. Okay, so if it is so then the phase should be long break, phase long. Okay, and else long, and else there should be m dot phase should be phase short, and else m dot phase should be phase work. Okay, and when the phase has been changed, we'll update the remaining as well. Yeah, and we'll return model. One more thing that if we are changing to work phase, we need to increment m dot session as well. So that's all. I'm not sure if this is gonna work or not. Let's see. So for the time being, let's reduce the duration where we can test it easily. Okay, so we have added duration in the main function, I guess. Yes, we need to add the duration in the main as we have updated our code. Long duration, I'll just tell it to be 8 seconds because we need to test our code. So we'll reduce the durations. Let's say 5 seconds, and the work duration, let's say call it 10 seconds. Okay, and I'll pass in the D. Now I don't think there are any other compiler errors, so I'll just do go run dot and press spacebar. Okay, so there's some bug in the tick function. We are not calling the advance anywhere. So in the tick function, if it is negative, then we need to advance. Okay, if m dot remaining is less than equals to 0, then m dot advance. We simply need to return m dot advance and nil, because nothing, we don't need to do anything. And here we need to do m dot running as false. We need to pause it. Okay, now from 10 it went to short break 5 second, and then okay, so there are two things that we need to do in the printing, in the view one. Before format, I'll add m dot face dot string, and I'll add some spaces in here and a plus sign here. Okay, now it will be visibly more clear that what's in which phase the code is running. It's right now it is in focus phase, and then I press spacebar again to start the short break, and then it's again in focus phase, and then again short break. Now it's the long break. Okay, it's working as we expected, and we can also add a clear, I mean a session detail as well. So instead of such a long uh, plus strings, I'll just do a printf. Okay, and inside I'll add percentage v and percentage v, and in bracket percentage v. Okay, so first thing I'll add is m dot face dot string, and then here I'll add the session detail, and then at the end I'll do session. We don't need this string method for this, and inside this I'll do m dot session, and here I'll just add slash and slash and press q to quit. Now let's try to run this code. Okay, we'll format it better in some time, but for the time it gives us all the details we need. Now we'll look into one bug we have added in mistakenly. Let's say if there is some delay in the program. Okay, I mean, when we call the tick function, let's say our system is a bit slow and it becomes a bit slow. Okay, so now our timer would be incorrect. I mean, when 1 second happens, it's actually 1.15 seconds, and over the time, the variation accumulates a lot. So, for to avoid this, I mean, let me show you. Here, 1 second is not equals to 1 second exactly. We are just decrementing the second, but it's not exactly 1 second. So for that, we will add uh, another parameter inside our model, which will be deadline. Okay, which will be a time, and instead of uh, updating remaining with -1 second, I'll update it with time equals to time dot until m dot deadline. Okay, and when we will update the deadline in the advance, we'll update it at two times. Whenever there is a space bar, we want to start the running. Okay, we'll update the deadline with m dot time dot now, and then dot add m dot remaining. Okay, this will be our deadline whenever we press space bar. Okay, and when we advance, no, we don't need to update deadline anywhere else. We just need to update it here only. So now if we run this, you'll see it. Yes, here after 7 it got straight into 6 because that small delays had accumulated, and it has to stay accurate. Okay, so this is how it works. So this works as now this timer is more accurate than the one we implemented earlier. Now we'll add a few more functionalities. I want the S to skip a session, and for that I'll do m dot running as false, and I'll return m dot advance, and nothing else, nil. Okay, and when I also want R to reset. Okay, m dot running, I'll set to false, it stops, and then to reset, what I'll do is m dot uh, remaining is equals to m dot face duration. Okay, and I'll just return m comma nil, and inside this helper keys, I'll change it to space is to start and stop, R is to reset, and S is to skip, and Q is to quit. Now let's run this again. Spacebar to start it. I stopped it again, and then when I press R, it resets. Okay, and when I press S, it goes into the short break. When I press S again, it goes into focus, session 2, session 3. It works as we expected. Okay, Okay, so now we'll add some styling to our code. Okay, so for that, I would like to create a separate file. Okay, and we'll use lip gloss library from the same charm bracelet. First, I need to do package main. So we'll have two colors. One will be color work color, and one will that will be lip gloss dot color, and one will be brick color. FF5 F87. This is a reddish color, and this for break it is a greenish color. 5F. So this is a greenish color. We'll create some styles. I'll call it title style equals to lip gloss dot new style dot bold. Okay, and similarly there is one clock style. You can change them as you like. There is subtle style for the help text. This is light grayish color, and there is a box style which will be lip gloss dot new style dot border border dot lip gloss dot rounded border, and I want padding to be 1,6 and dot and I want to align it with this to center. Okay, so these were all the styles that we needed. Now we'll have to do a lot of things inside the uh, m- model view function, because that's where everything happens. I'll create a function for m dot color, which will give us the gloss dot color, and else will return brick color. Okay, so here I'll create a C variable on dot color, and then we can create a status variable that will show us if the it is paused or not. If I'm dot running, status is running. For we'll split it title style dot foreground, and it is C, and I want to render it m dot face dot string. Okay, here we can create multiple variables. We need that. Now we'll create clock with similar thing, and here I'll do clock style foreground, and I'll render the format m dot format remaining. Then there is some subtle text which will tell us about the session. I have to do renders as printf. So here we define the body and use the lip gloss dot join vertically. It stacks one over the other, and this empty line is to create a spacer between two things. And then we have a box, and we have a border foreground will be as the color is same, and I'll will render the body inside the box. Okay, and there's a small footer which will tell us about the keys that we have. Substyle dot render space to start, stop, S to skip, R to reset, and Q to quit. Instead of these, I just need to join vertically. Uh, the gloss dot center, and I need to box and a new line and a footer, and I'll add a new line character here. I think this is all we need. Let's try to run this now. Okay, now this seems to work fine. Okay, so it's working fine. If I skip it, it goes into green. Focus, short break, long break, focus, and it's working fine. Okay, so this is enough for this. But let's say we want to add a progress bar in it, so we'll need to use some bubbles, as it's called. Bubbles are some pre-configured tools. Okay, not tools, but basically uh, pre-configured models that we can reusable models basically. Okay, so one such model is progress. There's an help, there's a keys. Okay, so we'll make use of them and make our code using those bubbles. So we'll add most of the code inside the styles file to make our project more modular. We'll import a few things. First thing we need to do to have a better head text is to create a key map. For that, we'll use the key uh, module from the bubbles. Okay, so it says we cannot import, so I'll just do go mod id, and I'll create style dot go. Okay, now it says it's not using use. So we'll create a key map struct. We'll create the key bindings. We'll create the key binding struct basically, not key bindings. So after creating the key map struct, we need to define key map bindings. Okay. For star stop, we need to do key dot binding, basically new binding, and inside that we need to pass key dot with the keys. It's space, and there's another argument we need to pass with help, and that says space, and it tells that it is used to start or stop. So here in the model struct we need to define three more things. One is progress, which will be progress dot model, and one will be help, which will be help dot model, and there will be keys, which will be a key map, and we need to initialize them as well here. Progress is progress dot new, and progress dot with default gradient. We can change the gradient style and all those things, but let's stick with the default one. And for help, we'll just do help dot new, and for keys, I'll use the keys we have defined in the style, right? Okay, so it says that we don't have the progress thing, so we'll do go mod tidy. I think now it should not throw us any errors. To show progress bar, we need a function to give us the percentage of completed. So this PD is the full phase duration, and percentage would be phase duration minus m dot remaining divided by float 64 PD. Okay, return maximum of 0 comma p. Okay, it can also be greater than 1, so we need to consider that as well. P is equals to minimum of 1 comma p. Okay, and we'll return p. Since we are using progress bar, we also need to handle the width change as well. So for that, in this message type, when the message type is window size message, then we need to do is message dot width minus 8, and the w should be maximum of 10, or the width, I mean it should be minimum 10 width, so we use max 1, and we want the maximum width to be 60, so it can be 60 or whatever is smaller than these two. It should be here w. Okay, so now m dot progress dot width should be equals to w, and the m dot help dot width should be equals to message dot width. I want the help message to span the whole width, and then simply return m and null. Okay, now let's go to the view function, and here we need to add a bar as well. By bar I mean the progress bar. Okay, and I'll do m dot progress dot view as, and I'll get percentage m dot m dot percent completed. This will give us the percentage completed, and we after the clock and before the subtitle, before the subtle text, we'll add the bar, and instead of footer, we'll use the help thing. I want to do m dot help dot view keys. Okay, but there will be an error. You can see. So this view help requires an interface which has two functions: the full help and the short help. So let's implement those in the, let's say, style directory only. The key map should have two functions implemented, and it requires key dot binding, and we also need to implement a short help function which returns an array to key dot binding and will return. Now I think there should be no errors from the compiler. Let's try to run this again. So here you can see we are getting a progress bar. Fine, but if you can see, the progress bar is incrementing at a very uh, abrupt speed. So let's fix this as well. uh, okay, so here first we will remove this, and instead of ticking at let's say 1 second, I wanted to tick at every 100 milliseconds. Okay, now let's try to run this again. Okay, now the progress is more incremental and more natural. You can reduce the increment time to make it more realistic, but this I think is fine, good enough. So this was all for the code. I hope you learned something new from it, and thanks for watching.